Sassenach. It's Lane from SASSENACHJOURNEY.com, and this is what I promised to be, is a bit of an extended location reveal for where they filmed Craigh Na Dun. The reason why it's a bit of an extended one is I've been lucky enough where I actually got to go there in both the summer and also this is in the snow. For me, this was actually a little bit exciting because where I am, it's basically tropical weather. I would liken our weather patterns to be kind of a little bit like Florida. And so we just don't get snow where I am. So this was actually a little bit exciting for me to be visiting Craigh Na Dun in the snow. But it was also very cold because we're just not used to these temperatures. In order for me to take these photos, I would have my car at the start of the farm, get out, take a photo, run back inside the car, put the heater on full blast with it giving me a little bit of a warning that the temperature was up so high that it could be a little bit dangerous, and then rinse and repeat. So the reason why I wanted to do a bit of an extended one is because in the Outlander fans that I speak to on Facebook, most that are actually going over there, most of you guys seem to be Americans, and the one thing that you really need to be aware of is if you are travelling over to Scotland, just like us Aussies, Scottish drive on the correct side of the road, which is the left-hand side of the road. And that might sound easy enough, but I've actually done the opposite. I've gone to America and I've actually driven on the right side of the road, and it's really not as easy as what it might seem driving on the opposite side of the road that you're used to. And it's one thing if you're actually driving in safe areas where the roads are nice and wide, etc. But in the roads leading up to this farm, it really is quite rough terrain, especially if you're driving in the snow. So, this was actually my first time in years that I've ever driven in the snow. And as I mentioned, it's quite rough terrain because the tracks going up there are quite narrow. They might as well be one lane in a lot of the situations, and of course there's a lot of potholes and this and that and lots of windy turns and all that kind of thing. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is bearing that in mind, bearing that it is one, perhaps on the opposite side of the road that you're used to driving on and that you have been used to driving for your entire driving life, and two, that it is actually in quite rough terrain and potentially uncontrolled weather, because even when I went there in the summer, it decided to throw, I got the biggest downpour of rain and also wind, and it was unbelievable. But what I'm trying to tell you is that with all those factors in mind, you might want to consider, is it really worth putting yourself at risk like that if you're not used to driving in those conditions? Or why don't you consider going on an Outlander tour when you're over there? Unfortunately, I'm not doing my Outlander tour that I was going to be doing, but there are other Outlander tours obviously that does go to the farm, and why not just enjoy the countryside instead of having to deal with those harsh conditions that you're potentially not used to. So that's just something for you to really consider when you're looking at going to these locations, because the drive to Kinlochrannoch is just so pretty. The area is one of the most prettiest areas that I recall driving through in Scotland, and it is just so green, especially after it's been raining. The first time that I actually went there, it was actually in the summer, and I thought that I had timed it pretty good because we had a couple of mid 30 degree days, and for Americans, that's another thing that you'll need to get used to is when you're coming over to, or when you're going over to Scotland, their temperatures are in Celsius. So when I say these few days had been about mid 30 degree temperatures, I mean about close to probably 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So bear in mind that they do have their weather in Celsius, and that's another important consideration, because you might be looking at Google thinking, well, what do these temperatures mean? How do I work out what clothes to bring? So try and work out how to convert between Fahrenheit and Celsius so that you'll be more aware of what the temperatures are, so that you can prepare for what type of clothes to bring when you're traveling. And my advice will just be prepared for absolutely anything, all seasons in the one day. As I said, it was a perfect summer's day when I went the first time, and basically as soon as I got up the hill, it was an absolute downpour. It was just full-on torrential rain, and the wind was, well, you'll see in the video just how windy it was. So that's why I've actually shown you the two extremes, one in summer and the second in the snow, so that you've got an idea of what you're preparing for when you're dealing with Scottish weather and what you're dealing with when you're driving through these roads. You'll see images that I've taken as I've been driving along, and there's this one image of Kinloch Rannoch in the snow, and as I look at it now, I sit there and I think, I cannot believe I successfully managed to drive through those roads. But it was really fun. Now, Kinloch Rannoch is probably just a little bit closer to Edinburgh than Inverness. So, but in saying that, not really. So it probably really won't make much of a difference in terms of your driving time, whether you go from Inverness or Edinburgh. So, but basically it's a little bit less from Edinburgh. Now, the actual farm, another couple of important things to consider. This farm is in fact privately owned, but the farmer does in fact allow Outlander fans to go to his farm. So please be considerate when you do. And that includes making sure that you bring all of your rubbish home, making sure that you close the gates in case any of the cattle get out, etc. So please make sure that you attend to all of that, and that way the more that we can contribute to all that, the more he will allow Outlander fans to come and visit his farm. And the actual farm is actually called Tulloch Roisk Farm, which is in the Dunalister estate. So it's Tulloch Roisk. You'll see the image in the video, so if you can't understand my Aussie accent, don't worry. You can pause the video and write down the name of the farm. So it's on Dunalister estate in Kinloch Rannoch. So it is an absolutely beautiful drive. I would at least allow a full morning or a full afternoon, simply because you will find the terrain of the drive will slow you down. I'm quite a confident driver. Obviously, I drive a lot in between all these locations. I grew up basically four-wheel driving, so I'm used to spending time on country roads, etc. And even I found myself being slowed down by the roads that I was traveling on to get up to this farm. Another really important thing to consider is there is absolutely no alcohol allowed when you're driving. In some countries such as Australia, such as America, they have a very minimal blood alcohol content allowed. So, for example, if you're out in a drive and you stop for lunch and you want to have a glass of beer or something like that, and if you were in Australia or America, you would be okay. In Scotland, no. So please be aware of that. That is something that is I just would not even risk it. I'm lucky because I basically don't drink, and so please don't even risk it if you're out and about in between these locations and you want to have a bit of a glass of wine or a pint of beer when you've just had your lunch. Whoever decides to do that, make sure that you're not driving, because you will get heavily fined when you're over in Scotland, and I'm not entirely sure, I'm sorry, of what other penalties they may have over there if you do happen to get caught. So moving on, I'm going to now start the reveal. You'll see Craigh Na Dun, which is Kinloch Rannoch on Tulloch Roisk Farm, and you'll start seeing them in the difference between summer and in the snow. I hope you enjoy. Hi everyone, welcome to Kinloch Rannoch. Look what I found. I found a herd of stags. How cool is that? I can't find the trees, and if you can see how many trees are around this place, it may become obvious why I'm having trouble on second attempt still to find the trees that were used as the location for Craigh Na Dun in Outlander. But this was worth it. This is the site of Craigh Na Dun in Outlander, and really my book wouldn't be my book unless I actually got here. And I gotta say, it's not easy to find. Can you hear the wind? I wonder if I go and touch the stones. Anyway, it wasn't an easy find. This is my second time to Kinloch Rannoch, and I still drove around and around and around. So, you know, after all the effort that I went to, I'm finally here, and it makes it all worthwhile. Sassenach, thank you so much for taking the time for watching this video. Make sure that you like the video and also take the time to subscribe to the channel. It will ensure that you will receive a notification every time that I upload a new video, which is really important, especially for those of you that are heading over to Scotland and visiting all the locations, as it will tell you everything about them that you need to know, or for those of you that simply want to enjoy the scenery. Thanks for watching.